Hi Amy, how are you?
Hi Rachel, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm brilliant. We've only been in touch via email and audiobook file sharing, haven't we, in the past? So it's lovely to see you face to face, Amy, for the first time.
You too. Thank you very much for suggesting this opportunity, and it's so easily done as well these days in the days of
Yes.
Zoom.
Thank you for doing such a brilliant job on narrating the second audiobook, The Truth of Her, the latest to be released. It was a tough book to write, so let alone acting it. So I think you did a brilliant job. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. And of course, thank you for the opportunity and for entrusting me with the narration of your wonderful words.
You're welcome. So we've had a few questions posed along the way to each of us, respectively, about how we work. So we figured it would be a good idea just to get together and ask each other these questions. So without further preamble, the timer is about to be set for 20 minutes. And I'll ask the first question. Sorry, no, you'll ask the first question of me. Get it right, Rachel. And we'll go back and forth and see how we get on. So, are you ready?
Yes.
Timer is on. Question 1.
Okay. So my first question for you, Rachel, is what first inspired you to write the Beyond Veil stories? And did you always know that there would be 3 parts to the series?
I got inspired. Well, I mean, I've always wanted to write a book, and it was in my mid-40s when life conspired to give me the opportunity to actually start to get serious about it. And I blame my husband for that. And I went to a Soul Purpose reading, a lovely lady who did a guided meditation, and it was very relaxing and lovely. And having come out of the guided meditation, she informed me of the messages that she'd been given, and one of them was, you will write books, for which I was really like, oh yeah, that's right, I will. And then she said, and you're going to write about unicorns, at which point I was rather fed up, because I didn't like the idea of writing about an animal that is more often characterized as rainbows and sparkles and soft toys. So I came back home and I was moaning away to my husband saying, oh my God, I can't believe I've got to write about a unicorn. Oh no. And then he said to me, and it's funny how in moments your life sort of goes ping, because he just said to me, well, Rachel, if you had to write about a unicorn, what would your version look and feel like? At which point I thought, oh yes, and having thought about it, I really knew what that character would be, and fully formed Marcham, one of the main characters in the first book, popped into my head. 5 minutes later, he'd gone off to make a cup of tea. I'd sketched out the story of The Point of Me, which was the first book in the Beyond Veil series. And I honestly thought that would just be it, because this was my first book. And all the way through, my husband was saying to me, I think this is a trilogy, I think this is a trilogy. And I kept saying, no, it's not. No, we'll just get to the end. And I've written my first book, and, that'll be enough. But yeah, then having written it, then the story of the sister of the main character in the first book, Lyra, she kept bugging me. And people did keep asking me, how does Lyra go on? What does she do with her life? So that's the story of The Truth of Her. There you go.
Lovely, thank you very much.
Okay, my turn to ask you a question. So,
yeah.
Question 2. Okay, Amy, how do you decide upon the voice for each character? So from hearing it in your head to actually speaking it. And do you often have multiple options? And if so, how do you decide?
Ooh, interesting. So when I approach a text for the first time, I try not to have too many preconceived ideas of what characters are going to sound like, in order to sort of let that sort of internal natural voice flow that I think everybody sort of gets when they're reading a book, which kind of helps the imagination come to life. So I let that come through, as well as sort of taking note of any obvious indicators in there that might sort of dictate what a character should sound like. So for example, age, gender, personality. Are they quite a positive person or a negative person, and how might that sort of affect the way that they sound? So I do that, and then when it comes down to actually speaking it out loud, it's just a case of just going for it and just seeing what comes out, and just practicing. And I can often be found wandering around the house doing various chores, just chuntering away to myself in various character voices, something which I think my husband was mildly concerned about to begin with, but he's used to it now. So yeah, it's just having those sort of moments like that. And in terms of having different voices, sometimes, yeah, there might be a few different ways of that I might think that I could do a character. Sometimes I might initially come up with one voice for a character and decide that that's not right for whatever reason, but then sort of keep it in the back of my mind, and it can come back in later on and it's perfect for another character. So I don't sort of discard anything. But then when it comes down to the actual recording of the audio, and if I'm sat down and I'm about to record that for the first time, I tend to go with whatever the initial first voice was instinctively, and then just listen back and see if I think, yeah, I'm happy with that. If I'm happy with that, then I'll send it over to you, and if you're happy with it, then I'm delighted, because I know that it's your story and your characters. But obviously I am open to change as well if there's some if there's a character.
Obviously, when I'm writing a novel, I'm not thinking of somebody having to act it. so I guess when screenplays, there's much more direction in terms of sort of how the character will appear and sound on screen, and of course that's not in my head at all. So it was a real sort of heart-stopping moment when I first heard some of the characters spoken in something other than my own voice inside my head. And I realized, some of them I needed to work in a way that wouldn't work within a book, because it would be too detailed and you'd sort of stop the flow of somebody's imagination. But of course, that's the skill you have, is interpreting it and breaking it to life. So good job.
And of course, I must add that you were very, very helpful and detailed in your notes for some of those characters, and not everybody would do that for an actor, so thank you, that's very much appreciated. Anything to help. Okay, right, so question 3. Okay, my second question for you, Rachel, is more of a statement to begin with. So your writing flows so seamlessly between the real world and the different sort of dreamlike worlds that you create within your stories. So what different worlds do you find easiest to write about or prefer writing about?
So I've sort of had this question posed in similar fashion, really, about the pacing of it, because often when I go into the more dreamy spiritual sort of experiences, let's say, I'm often examining something at a moment in time, and I don't do it in real time in the sense of the writing. I can take quite a few pages often to examine it, and it's kind of all the same to me. I'm not conscious of doing it. Somebody was sort of asking it as in, oh, that's quite a skill, how do you do it? And I was clueless. I was just I don't know, I just do. And it kind of comes down to my belief that all of that spirituality, all of that energy, whatever word or name you're most comfortable sitting with, but all of that beyond the veil thing is always there. And it's always accessible to us. And actually, you don't have to have any great ceremony or any, sort of particular approach to it. You just have to, have the faith that it is always there, and then just switch your attention to it. So, and that's how it happens in the writing. I mean, scenes, these characters, they are kind of given to me. I mean, I don't want to sound too cliched here, but they're kind of given to me, and often I will sit down with a blank screen in front of me and think, I have no idea what I'm going to write, but I know I need to get the characters to sort of this point, or I know I need to clarify this, and I tend to just sort of not worry too much about what's coming out on the screen. And then I go back and I read it, and I think, I don't actually do much editing at all until I get to the real editing, but it's kind of all just in the flow. So I love going into the spiritual things. I love explaining a character's energy, and what's really going on beyond that veil, with people's language and choices and so on. What does that actually do at the soul level? I love exploring that, because I think a lot of us get into trouble with our beliefs and our free will choices and so on and so forth, and we end up sort of living half lives, possibly, or really full lives. And the difference of what that is can actually just be in those little moments that happen, those little choices that we're doing. So yeah, plus I kind of always love that kind of magical realism, because I think life is magic.
Yeah.
So I sort of just want to make it a little bit more obvious.
No, oh, thank you for that. It's lovely. It's lovely to hear about how it all comes to you, and how it all just like flows onto the page as well. It's lovely.
Yeah. It's an enjoyable thing, and painful too. Okay,
it's life.
yeah, true enough. Okay, question 4. So just doing my dong. Okay, Amy, how do you remember what each character sounds like as you read through the book, so that you keep it consistent? Because I never could.
So it's actually a really simple thing, and this is a great tip for anyone embark on a narration or any sort of audio recording journey of feature length. So I have a spreadsheet which identifies each character within the story, and then linked to that spreadsheet is an audio file with a clip of that character's voice. So once I've recorded a full chapter for the first time, if a new character has cropped up within that, I'll go back, take that snippet, save it in a new file under that character's name, and then link it to my spreadsheet. So that if there is a character that comes in less frequently and I haven't done it for a while, I can just go back and listen to that audio clip a few times. And then I'll find myself speaking along to the audio clip, and then translating that to the new lines that the characters got to say in the next part of the story. So that really works for those characters that are less frequent throughout the story. So if I've had a few days off from it as well, and I've sort of come back in, I've gone, oh, what am I doing? It just kind of helps me to get that sense of what that character's like back. And of course easier than trawling through previous chapters and trying to pinpoint moments where that character comes in.
I love that, actually. That's like seeing the engine under the car bonnet for the first time. It's the fact that actually what I have spreadsheets, and what we're doing something very arty and creative, but actually it's underpinned by something as boring as a spreadsheet, but it's so valuable. That's fascinating.
Spreadsheets hold life together, don't they?
They really do, as much as some people hate them. So technique. Okay, question 5.
Oh yeah. Okay. So this is my final question for you, Rachel.
Yes.
And it is, do you have a set routine or any sort of rituals that you like to perform before you set out to write? Or is every writing day completely different for you depending on what you're doing?
I definitely do have a ritual, and I'm not going to call it a ceremony, but I try not to have too many rituals, because I kind of want to be flexible, and I certainly don't want to be sort of creating little prisons for myself, saying, oh, I can't write unless the circumstances are exactly perfect, because life doesn't give you perfect circumstances. So I have limited time because, you know, I have to work and I have a family and a house and, you know, life to live. So I have limited time during the week when I know that that's my writing time. So what I do is I get to it as quickly as possible without getting distracted by emails and social media and all this. I light a candle. I light some incense, make sure that there's lots of beautiful scent in the air. I sit on my particular writing sofa with a particular laptop. Not that that really matters, but I get myself comfortable. I plug in music. I have to have music playing. And some writers, you know, have to write in total silence. Some can only listen to music that doesn't have lyrics in it. I don't, it doesn't bother me. I have to have that sort of rise and fall going on. And more often than not, I will find that what I'm writing will correspond with the tone of what's in my ears. I've definitely had I can read certain points in my book and I can remember what song was playing at that time. It's sort of interlinked. And I try to get 2,000 words done. And that's the routine. I try to get 2,000 words done in the time I have, which is roughly speaking about 2 hours before I have to get up and go and do something else. And I'm often interrupted. You know, the door will go, the dog will want to be let out, the husband will ask a question. But I find that I can transition, you know, in and out of those as so long as I've got the general sort of atmosphere going on. Some days I sit down with in that and I have, as I say, no idea where I'm going. And some days I will say, well, look, you know, if I get a sentence written, that's good. And I try to always have the approach that I'm not looking for perfection in terms of the writing at this stage. I'm just trying to find the truth of where I'm going. And as long as I don't sort of, you know, get too hung up on my sentence structure or whether I've forgotten about the past tense, present tense, I find that it just flows. It just flows. First drafts are always meant to be imperfect. I keep reminding myself that. A good metaphor for life.
And there's no such thing as perfect either. I think trying to be perfect just kills creativity, doesn't it? So it's perfect in its own way without trying to be that.
I mean, it's another bit of a hackneyed phrase, but that good enough, we all know when something feels good enough, yeah? And yes, there's always something that could be done, but often the art of art is actually knowing when to stop and not fiddle anymore. So I try to keep that in mind. Okay, so final question to you, and I think looking at the time, yeah, we're on time. So here we go. It's question 6. Which character did you find the most complex to vocalize? And it's 2 questions in one. And which one are you the most happiest with, that you like the most?
Okay, so I would say that probably the most complex character to vocalize from is the ones that aren't human beings. So the more sort of fantasy kind of characters, the ones that are animals or the trees and that kind of thing, mainly because I don't know what they sound like. For the human characters, you can kind of guess, or you kind of know somebody, or you've heard something that sort of like fits that kind of character before. But with the non-human ones, it is kind of like you're sort of looking for more clues of how to vocalize that. So I would say probably one of the most complex ones, and the ones that I kind of had to think about a little bit more and in a different way, would be Negredo from The Truth of Her.
Yes.
And for the reason that obviously I knew that character had a male voice. Yeah. I also knew that character was a bird. More specifically, a crow who has his own very specific call as well. So it's kind of like adding something that denotes a little bit of bird-likeness to a male voice. But then on top of that, because the character of Negredo is obviously counterpart to one of the other characters in the story, and the gatekeeper, sort of sounding a little bit like that as well. So this is when my handy little voice files came in, because obviously I had vocalized the gatekeeper in the first story, The Point of Me, and then having then come across Negrido, having to go back and go, right, so let's just have a play and see what sounds kind of like that but not like that, but also fits this criteria and also sort of flows within the story as well.
Yes.
I kind of got my head on those layers. Again, it's just a case of me wandering around practicing different voices out loud, and until I've got it to a point where I can speak it without trying too hard, so it sounds like it flows. So I'd say that was definitely one of the more in terms of ones that I enjoy the most, I would say, this is total cliche answer, but I do enjoy doing all of the characters, whatever complexities might be there, it comes more or not. Once you've accomplished a character, it's always really a really enjoyable thing, and as an actor, it's obviously always really fun to have a go at playing other people. So I really enjoy that element to audio work. But in terms of the ones that I probably enjoy doing the most, I would say, and this might sound a little bit unexpected, but the kind of more villainous characters, I would say. They're just really great to just sort of sink your teeth into, I guess, because they're so far from what my normal voice is like and what my normal personality is like. So I'd say in particular the Wood Witch. I think she's a really great character.
I was hoping you would say the Wood Witch.
I
enjoyed writing her. I had such fun with that.
Identify with that nasty little niggling voice at the back of our heads as well, so that kind of gave me an opportunity to sort of vocalize that as well and be away with her.
Yeah. Well, you did a brilliant job. Thank you. Our time is up, so that was fun.
So quickly.
So we've got to go. Got to cut it short. Keep it real. But before we do, a reminder that both of the existing Beyond Veils series audiobooks are available. So that's The Point of Me, which is book 1, and The Truth of Her, book 2. And book 3, which is published in paperback and ebook, is coming in audiobook soon. So you have to do that, don't you? Have to do all the hard work.
Yes, looking forward to it.
Well, for those people watching, we hope that you love the books as much as we enjoyed writing and recording them respectively, and make sure that you let us know. So bye, Amy. Thank you so much for joining me today and answering the questions.
Bye. Thank you so much for inviting me. And once again, it's been lovely to meet you.
Bye, folks.